Hello everyone, this is VinylMan95, and today I'm going to be doing a video that's kind of inspired by Larry Graves TV, also known as CanadianStudmuffin. He did a video recently where he talked about his favorite songs by like 100 artists. I'm going to do something similar to that, but all these artists are going to be from my CD collection. So it's basically my favorite songs from artists in my CD collection. Here we go. First artist in my CD collection, we're going to go in alphabetical order, is AC/DC. And I would say my favorite song by them would be It's a Long Way to the Top If You Want to Rock and Roll. Aerosmith, and my favorite song by them would be Walk This Way, the 1975 version, although I do like the Run DMC version too. The Beach Boys, my favorite song is on this album, it is God Only Knows. I just love the instrumentation in it. It's great. This is the Beastie Boys, and my favorite song by the Beastie Boys is the second track off of here, which is The New Style. It's just, I don't know, it's kind of a funny song. It's got a little bit of energy with it. So yeah, favorite song by the Beastie Boys would have to be The New Style. Oh, it's the Beatles. Oh man, I love the Beatles. It's really hard for me to pick which one's my favorite. I'd say for now I'd pick Rain, which was the B-side to Paperback Writer, as my favorite Beatles song, but my favorite Beatles song changes sometimes on a daily basis, but it's generally a competition, I guess, between Rain, I Am the Walrus, A Day in a Life, and a few others. But right now it's Rain. Believe it or not, I actually have some Bee Gees in my collection. And my favorite Bee Gees song is probably Jive Talking. I like it. I remember hearing it on the radio a lot where I used to live. So for that reason, I would say the Bee Gees, my favorite Bee Gees song would be Jive Talking. Now we're getting into some of the 50s part of my collection. This is Bill Haley and the Comets. This is a 3-disc set that's from Europe, although I got it at my local half-priced books for like $8. My favorite song on this would have to be their biggest hit, Rock Around the Clock. Although I do like a lot of their other stuff. I do like Crazy Man Crazy and Real Rock Drive as well. Billy Joel. Oh, he's someone I've been getting into lately. Right now, and it's generally been my favorite Billy Joel song, I'd say Scenes from an Italian Restaurant. I love that song. I just love how, I don't know, it's like, it's got this great story with it, even if it's just about an Italian restaurant. It's something interesting. Just look it up and you'll know what I mean. Now we're getting into some of the classic metal. Black Sabbath. This actually is a kind of a rare box set nowadays. I bought this when it was only $50, and now I see it on Amazon going for like $300. So, whoa. And this basically has their first 8 albums. And I would say my favorite song from Black Sabbath is Fairies Wear Boots, which is off of Paranoid, their second album. Like a little bit of Bob Dylan. This is Shadows in the Night, which was not his newest album, but it's a couple of albums ago, I guess, since he's releasing Triplicate, which is 3 discs. I have all of his other stuff except for the newest one and the one that's yet to come out. But my favorite Dylan song would probably have to be either The Times They Are A-Changin' or Mr. Tambourine Man. Alright, so Bob Marley. I really don't have much Bob Marley in my collection. I only have this album and his greatest hits, which is Legend. My favorite Bob Marley song would have to be either the live version of No Woman, No Cry or the very early version of Put It On, which he did in the early 60s off the first album, The Wailing Wailers. I love the energy in both songs, so I can't really choose which one is better. Boston, not one of my favorite bands ever, but they're alright. This album's good. But my favorite Boston song would have to be Don't Look Back. I like a little bit of Chicago. Used to be a big fan of Chicago. I mainly like the Terry Kath years, which was basically when they were not syrupy ballady. But my favorite song that Chicago did would have to be 25 or 6 to 4. I love the energy in that song. I love how just the horns are. And I love the middle of the song when the guitar kind of does its thing. The guitar solo by the legendary and late Terry Kath. So yeah, my favorite song by Chicago is 25 or 6 to 4. Nothing wrong with Little Chuck Berry. I love Chuck Berry. And, man. My favorite song by Chuck Berry would have to be Reelin' and Rockin'. I like how it sounds, you know? Now, this is an interesting artist. This is The Crazy World of Arthur Brown. Essentially, he's a one-hit wonder, but he's a huge influence to the shock rock acts of people like Alice Cooper. This guy might have even been maybe crazier than Alice Cooper, I don't know. But, the big hit, which is also my favorite, he had was Fire. And, it's basically, it's a song about some guy going to hell, basically. Also, the associate producer of this album was Pete Townsend of The Who, so look up Fire, or just look up The Crazy World of Arthur Brown. Arthur Brown especially was crazy. Even Frank Zappa said he was crazy. Oh, I've had this CD for years. Creedence Clearwater Revival. I love Creedence Clearwater Revival, even though I've only had this of their stuff. But my favorite song that Creedence Clearwater Revival did was Travelin' Band. I just love it. It reminds me like a harder-edged 50s rock song. Yeah, and I love it. It's just amazing, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Cream. Psychedelic rock masterpiece right here with Des'relais Gears. I love a lot of the songs on here. Sunshine of Your Love is great, but I also really like the opening song on here, Strange Brew. I like both about the same, so I'd say those two. Ziggy Stardust himself, David Bowie. David Bowie's one of those artists where it's really hard to pinpoint a favorite song of his, because he has so many eras. Like, he has Ziggy Stardust, he had the Thin White Duke, he had Period, which was during the Scary Monsters and Super Creeps days, and then he had the Berlin Trilogy. All of those are great, but I would say my favorite song by David Bowie would be Life on Mars, which is off the Hunky Dory album. Although I would say Scary Monsters and Super Creeps is a very, very close second. Deep Purple. Love Deep Purple. My favorite song by Deep Purple would have to be Highway Star. I just love it. It's the perfect song to be speeding down a highway at like 90 miles an hour. Of course, without getting caught, but that's besides the point. So Highway Star is my favorite Deep Purple song. Def Leppard. They're a pretty good glam metal band, I would say, although I don't know if they're technically glam metal, but my favorite song by them would have to be Pour Some Sugar on Me. So yeah, that's Def Leppard. Dio with Holy Diver. That's the album. But my favorite Dio song would be the opening track on this, Stand Up and Shout. I just love the energy in it. Like a lot of songs on this list, I just love the pure energy that they have on the songs. So, Stand Up and Shout would be my favorite Dio song. The Doors. This is another box set that I have. This has all the albums that Jim Morrison appeared on. And in the past, I used to say Light My Fire was my favorite. But now I would say Roadhouse Blues is my favorite. So, for The Doors, Roadhouse Blues. Some of you guys might be sincerely judging me with this next CD pick. But, Duran Duran. Yes, I do like Duran Duran. And my favorite track by Duran Duran, I would say, is probably Rio. I like this whole album, too. Please don't judge me. Ain't nothing wrong with a little Eagles. And for the Eagles, I would probably say that Take It Easy is my favorite Eagles song. So yeah. ELO, and my favorite ELO song would have to be Do Ya. Here's some Elton John. This is Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, the deluxe edition that I bought a few years back. My favorite song by Elton John has to be Saturday Night's Alright for Fighting. Well, I got a woman way across town. Oh, she's good to me here. Oh, yeah. That was my Elvis impersonation, which some people said I'm good at. But my favorite Elvis song would have to be Blue Suede Shoes. It's fast-paced. I love it. And it just fits Elvis. That's what I love about it. That, and, I mean, it just sounds good. So yeah, my favorite Elvis song would have to be Blue Suede Shoes. Although, Power of My Love, which is the first song on the second side of From Elvis to Memphis, from Elvis to Memphis. That song, The Power of My Love, I really, really do like. This is another oldies act. Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers. Yeah. I'd say one of my favorite songs that they did. Their biggest hit was Why Do Fools Fall in Love? But my favorite song by them would probably have to be probably Who Can't Explain. So yeah, Who Can Explain? Frankie Lyman. George Harrison. I don't have much George Harrison. I only have this in Cloud 9. But my favorite George Harrison song would probably have to be When We Was Fab off of Cloud 9. Kind of reminiscent of like the late 60s Beatles. So yeah, When We Was Fab, George Harrison. I do like myself some Green Day. And I would say my favorite Green Day song would have to be Basket Case. Even though some stations do play it to death. Now we're getting into some more metal, probably more glam metal, I guess, even though they're harder edged. Guns N' Roses, and my favorite song by Guns N' Roses would have to be Paradise City. Unfortunately, this is really the only album I have by Guns N' Roses, so yeah. Now we're going to go on the softer side, and to the British side, and to the 60s side with Herman's Hermits, which I actually got this copy signed by Peter Noone, the singer of Herman's Hermits. My favorite Herman's Hermits song would probably have to be No Milk Today. I just love it. Now we're going into some historic psychedelia. Iron Butterfly with Inagata Devita. And that's exactly what my favorite song by them is, Inagata Devita. It's just this big, powerful, and long psychedelic jam session that's just awesome. The other songs on here are okay, but I have yet to give them as much of a listen as Inagata Devita, so I'll have to listen to this a little more. Alright, Iron Maiden. Yeah. And for Iron Maiden, I would say my favorite song by them is the opening track on here, Invaders. I just love it. Iron Maiden has a lot of energy on that track, and honestly, I don't see many Maiden fans talking about Invaders, which is a darn shame because it's one of the best songs ever. Jefferson Airplane, this is not Jefferson Starship, what the heck? But anyway, Jefferson Airplane, I would say my favorite song by them, it's one of their bigger known hits, White Rabbit. But yeah, you can't get anything wrong with Jimi Hendrix. This dude's a flippin' legend. This man could play guitar, but you all know that. My favorite song by Jimi Hendrix would have to be the title track of this, Are You Experienced? Although, sometimes Purple Haze ties with it. Let's get a little folky with John Denver. John Denver's an artist I've been getting into a little bit lately. Kind of a newer thing for me, I guess, even though he's not really that new. But my favorite song by Mr. Denver would have to be either Leaving on a Jet Plane or Starwood and Aspen, which I know the last song is not really a well-known song by him, but I like it. I also want to mention Sunshine on My Shoulders. That's another great song. John Lennon. I would say for my favorite John Lennon song, I would probably say Instant Karma. Johnny Cash. Love Johnny Cash. I'd say my favorite song by Mr. Cash would be A Boy Named Sue. The live version. The uncensored version. Yes, yes, yes. I do like Kiss. And my favorite Kiss song would probably have to be Shout It Out Loud. Although sometimes I like Calling Dr. Love more. So, really between those two. Aw yeah, Led Zeppelin. And I'd have to say my favorite song by Led Zeppelin would be Over the Hills and Far Away. Little Richard. I love Little Richard. He's a great singer. And I'd have to say my favorite song by him would be The Girl Can't Help It. This is an interesting CD I have. You guys probably won't know who I'm talking about, but Looking Glass. Looking Glass was kind of a two-hit wonder in the States. They only had 2 hits that charted on Billboard. Brandy, You're a Fine Girl, and Jimmy Loves Mary Ann. Brandy went to number 1, while Jimmy Loves Mary Ann went to the lower parts of the Billboard 40. Peaking at 33. I'd have to say my favorite song on this, and by the way, I really love their first album. I would say my favorite song that they did was either Catherine Street, which is the 3rd song, or the last song on the first album, One by One. So yeah, that's Looking Glass. Look 'em up. Lou Reed. And for Lou Reed, I'd have to say my favorite song by him is Andy's Chest. The McCoys, they did Hang On Sloopy, which is pretty big here in Ohio. And that's also my favorite song by them. Metallica, which I will be seeing very soon. Anyway, my favorite song by Metallica would have to be either Battery or Master of Puppets. Michael Jackson. And I'd say my favorite song by him is Rock With You. Nirvana. And I'd say my favorite song by Nirvana would be In Bloom. Just love the guitar in it. Ozzy Osbourne. Oh yeah. And my favorite song, even though Ozzy is typically a heavier artist, I like the softer Mama I'm Coming Home as my favorite Ozzy Osbourne song. Paul McCartney. And my choice will include Wings. So I'd probably say for my favorite Paul McCartney song would probably have to be Jet or Let Me Roll It. I love both. Or 1985. Gosh, those are good songs. Paul Simon. Someone who I got into a lot last year. And I'd say for Paul Simon, my favorite song by him would be Diamonds on the Soles of Her Shoes. Pearl Jam. This is unfortunately the only album I own by them. But my favorite song would have to be Once, which is the album opener. Prince. And for Prince, this is a really stereotypical choice, but I love Purple Rain. So that's my favorite Prince song. Queen, great band. Just a great band. My favorite song by them is the opener on A Night at the Opera, Death on Two Legs, although I also really do like Bohemian Rhapsody and 39. Rainbow. Oh, with Richie Blackmore and Ronnie James Dio. My favorite Rainbow song would have to be Stargazer, although I also really do like Tarot Woman and A Light in the Black. The Ramones, this is another box that I had for 6 albums, and my favorite Ramones song would probably have to be Today Your Love, Tomorrow the World, the last song off their first album. Ringo Starr. I have to include all the Beatles, you know. And my favorite song that he did would probably have to be It Don't Come Easy, but I also do like King of Broken Hearts that he did for Vertical Man in the 90s. Now, I don't listen to this CD that often. I like it. I like to have it around mainly as a historical piece because it did a lot for music. Robert Johnson, famous blues guy. He's a good blues player. I'd say my favorite song that he did was, probably Crossroad Blues, even though that's a big answer. Rolling Stones. This album is pretty good, even though it doesn't really have that many of their hits, but the Stones don't need to have the hits to be good. My favorite Stones song, though, is probably Ruby Tuesday. Rush. And my favorite Rush song would have to be Tom Sawyer. Oh, I also forgot to mention Pink Floyd. My favorite Pink Floyd song would probably be Time. Simon and Garfunkel. Oh, beautiful harmonies. I'd say my favorite song by them would be either Bridge Over Troubled Waters or Baby Driver, which is off the same album. Soundgarden. Oh, this is heavy. I'd say Black Hole Sun. Either that or Fell on My Black Days. Both are good. Stevie Wonder. I'd have to say my favorite Stevie Wonder song is either You Are the Sunshine of My Life or Part-Time Lover. Another one-hit wonder, we got Strawberry Alarm Clock. Not really a one-hit wonder, but they're kind of a minor psychedelic band from the 60s that I like. They did Incense and Peppermints, but my favorite song by them would have to be Sit with the Guru, and I'd say Birdman of Alcatraz because of just how weird it is. Van Halen. Oh yeah, getting into some more classic rock. My favorite Van Halen song would have to be either Panama or Ain't Talking About Love. Velvet Underground. My favorite Velvet Underground song would either have to be White Light, White Heat or Sunday Morning. Weezer. And my favorite song by them would have to be the sweatshirt song, the sweater song. Oh, Wham. Why did George Michael have to go? I used to have this album when I was like 12, and then I sold it. And I really regret that, because this album was so good. And then, by the time I thought about getting it, George Michael dies. So, I did pick up a new copy, but I wish I would have done it sooner. My favorite song by Wham would have to be Careless Whisper. The Who. And my favorite Who song would probably have to be My Generation. Yardbirds. They're another British invasion band, but they're mainly known for their history rather than their songs. My favorite song by the Yardbirds would have to be Happenings 10 Years Time Ago or Over Under Sideways Down. Yes. I love Yes. But my favorite song by Yes would probably have to be Yours Is No Disgrace. And last but not least, the Zombies. And my favorite song would have to be Care of Cell 44, although I do like Butcher's Tale as well. We're done. Now I can upload this. Goodbye, people.